Welcome to the Is It Just Me podcast with Jess and Luke, the show dedicated to diving into your F1 opinions. Now, we are coming off the back of Pierre Gasly's maiden win in Formula One. And naturally, a lot of chatter has emerged about the young Frenchman's future based on his pretty amazing success in Monza. And obviously, Gasly himself, after the shock win in Monza, talked about a potential return to Red Bull, saying, I think I'm ready, but it's not up to me to make the call. I guess the strong results should be rewarded with something, but we will see what happens. So today, Luke, we're going to be talking about what Pierre Gasly should do, shouldn't do, what are his next steps, where could we potentially be seeing him in the future. But actually, it did turn out to be a rather unpopular opinion, which I don't know if I was quite surprised at how many people find this to be an unpopular opinion, especially given also the chats that we've been having about Alex Albon and how he's been getting on at Red Bull this season. But we're going to roll with it for now and kind of unpick it as we go through the show. But this week's unpopular opinion is it just me, or should Red Bull bring back Pierre Gasly to the senior team? Now, as I touched on, it seems like people do think this is an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's maybe I was quite surprised by that, because I think that firstly, the phrase Pierre Gasly Grand Prix winner, I find so cool to say. Like, I'm sorry, it's just such a mega story for Formula One, for Pierre Gasly himself, this sort of redemptive arc that he's been on over the past sort of year or so since he was demoted from Red Bull after just 12 races back to Toro Rosso, as it was then, now known as AlphaTauri. And it's just been such a mega story. And I think that after that victory on Sunday, like, we sort of started to ask the questions again about, like, well, could you see yourself going back there? What's Red Bull going to do? We've got Alex Albon struggling as much as he is. So when I think we discussed like this idea pretty much straight after the race, like, I think it was one of the first things I did after the race was message you and be like, right, that's what we can talk about next week. Because I was sort of convinced that people would be saying, right, look, he's won a race, get him back in Red Bull ASAP, he deserves to be there. But then we put this out, and the responses coming back were really interesting. Like, we've had so many people, as we'll get onto probably later in the show, saying, no, that's a terrible idea, he shouldn't do that. But we've maybe had a couple sort of sitting a little bit more on the fence and maybe sort of seeing why Red Bull might be thinking that could be an option for the future for Gasly.
So let's kick off with Karim, because he is kind of, I guess, one of those people you've just touched on, where he seems to be like, maybe that's not a good move for him, but also does raise some points about why Gasly might want to be in the senior team.
There's something that's actually bothering me a bit about that Albon Gasly Red Bull saga, is that everyone's saying Gasly shouldn't go back to Red Bull, or in my opinion he shouldn't. He should stay at AlphaTauri, wait and whatever. But no one's saying that Pierre wants that seat so much that he's actually saying it on the media. He's saying, I want to get back that seat. I'm doing everything to get back my Red Bull seat. So if he wants it that bad, he should get it. And whether he deserves it or not, he definitely does. He's a race winner. He's been pressured by a great driver, by Carlos, and a quicker car, and kept it cool, no mistakes. And yeah, he's a proven race winner, and he's a guy that can be under pressure, and that's what changed from.
Now, I think this is always going to be a kind of a two-part conversation, really. It's why should Gasly want to go back to Red Bull, or if the option's there to go back to Red Bull? And the other side of it is, should Red Bull be looking back at Pierre Gasly and bringing him back up out of that sister team? But let's kick off with what Karim talked about in terms of, like, Gasly clearly wants to be in another car that's going to give him potentially another race win, if not more race wins. So I guess that's the point, right? Like, he's a Red Bull driver and he's going to want to be in the senior team. That's where the arguably should be the more potential for wins, right? So I mean, what else is he going to want to do?
Exactly, yeah. And the whole point of the Red Bull program is to get drivers into that senior team. And that's the whole point that formerly Toro Rosso, now AlphaTauri. That's the reason it exists, is to sort of develop future Red Bull drivers and get them up there. We saw Sebastian Vettel successfully treading that path, Daniel Ricciardo as well, and Max Verstappen, who has been brilliant. And I think that's the whole point of being a Red Bull junior driver, is that you want to get into that senior team and you want to be competing for race wins, for championships. Now, obviously, Gasly did have that chance, and he's been there through 2019. It was a very difficult period for him, but now it's a bit of a different Pierre Gasly. I think things have maybe changed a little bit, and I think that ultimately, if he was so set against not wanting to go back to Red Bull, like if it was that much of a thing where he didn't want to do it, then he would not be part of the Red Bull program anymore. Like, they would have surely cut ties already, and that would have been that. So I think that if you're in that Red Bull program, it's really because you want to be at the top, like any F1 driver. You want to be fighting for race wins and championships. And I think that Gasly, he knows that ultimately he will never do that with AlphaTauri. Like, he should not be winning a race in an AlphaTauri, and it's incredible that he did. But that is not a regular occurrence. Like, really, it is probably the freakiest win we've had in F1 for the past sort of 25 years or so. So if you want to be fighting for race wins week in, week out, your better bet is with Red Bull than it is with AlphaTauri. So you would say, well, ultimately, if it's one of the big three, now arguably big two teams between Mercedes and Red Bull who can realistically win a race, then why wouldn't you want to be in one of those four seats? Like, surely it's just obvious you would want to move up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've seen that Red Bull are capable of winning races, even through this Mercedes dominance. And don't forget, which I'm sure everybody won't because we talk about it all the time, we're getting a reg change in 2022, which might level the playing field a little bit. I mean, that's the aim, obviously. So you've got that to think about as well. Like, if he can prove that Red Bull want to commit to him and his future and into this new era of Formula One, what better seat to do that than in, as you've pointed out, one of the top two teams currently. So, yeah, it's a bit like when we talked about why Carlos, and I mean, Carlos coming P2 last week and then watching what happened to Ferrari. I think week in, week out, he must be, I don't know. I like it. It's difficult to watch. Like, he was challenging for a win, and not only that. I mean, I'm not to change the subject away from Gasly, because obviously we're here to talk about Gasly and Red Bull. But Carlos in that McLaren looked set for a P2 regardless of how the race panned out. So to see that to then go to a Ferrari, and what happened to Ferrari last weekend is like, must be difficult. But again, as we talked about on that last podcast about whether Carlos should be regretting his decision to move to Ferrari, it's all about long-term planning. So yeah, you've got to. We're gonna dive into what other options Pierre might have away from Red Bull. But yeah, as you've pointed out, if you're an AlphaTauri driver, you're gonna want to jump up into the big boy seats. So, but obviously, I think what a lot of people have picked up on, I guess correctly, is that second Red Bull seat is not an easy seat to occupy. Either performance-wise, or I guess the psychological pressures that come along with it as well, not to mention your teammate is Max Verstappen. So let's maybe have a look at a little reason why maybe he should stay where he is at AlphaTauri, because he seems to be having a good time of it. And let's listen to what Brandon had to say.
Hey, Jess and Luke. I honestly think at this point that Pierre should try to stay at AlphaTauri. I think that it's probably not his choice, obviously, since he's a Red Bull driver, really. But if given the choice, I think that he should try to stay for 2021, because there's obviously no other openings that would be worth his while for 2021 in another team other than Red Bull, I guess, technically, if we're going there. And I think that honestly, Albon should be demoted to AlphaTauri with Gasly for 2021. I think Kvyat should just be out completely. Kvyat has 4 points and Gasly has 43 after that win. So I think a team of Albon and Gasly could be really interesting in AlphaTauri for 2021. For 21, I think that Red Bull should actually just go for someone more experienced in that second seat. Obviously, Checo's now available. Hulkenberg's available. I think someone needs to be more experienced in that seat to help them. They've tried the two young drivers the last two times. So far, it's not working. They need to try something else there to help Max. And then obviously, they're going all in on Max Verstappen as their savior, basically. So I think they need to try something different. Obviously, if it's Gasly and Albon, that doesn't really help Red Bull long term because, I think both of those guys, if they both end up at AlphaTauri, honestly, they won't be back at Red Bull. They'll be going somewhere else like Sainz did. So, interested to see what you guys think, and thanks.
Lots of interesting points there from Brandon. So I'm going to try and unpick them bit by bit. But I guess in the first instance, the fact that he is saying, Pierre should just be comfortable as team leader over at AlphaTauri, bring Alex back, have them both. Hopefully, I guess what Brandon's maybe getting at there is that Gasly's had this resurgence of confidence by going back to AlphaTauri. His performances are better. His headlines around him are better. Everyone's talking about how he's, one of the drivers of the season so far. And I think that win is going to solidify that as him being one of the standout drivers. And maybe Alex needs a bit of that as well. And actually, what the problem is at Red Bull is that they've been trying to push these young drivers through, expecting them to all be Max Verstappens.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just, there's only one Max Verstappen, right? And the chances of that happening more than once is probably slightly slim, right? So maybe they should be looking to more experienced drivers.
Yeah, perhaps. I think that would... And it's been something that I think has been sort of questioned before. Like, why do they have to stick to this principle of always putting junior drivers and getting their own talent into that seat? But that's how they've always done it. I mean, you've got to go back to 2007 when they signed Mark Webber for the last time that Red Bull looked outside the Red Bull sort of pool to bring in a driver. So I think that it would be... I agree with Brandon. I think that a driver such as a Perez or a Hulkenberg would bring a huge amount to Red Bull. I think it would be a very experienced sort of head who could work well alongside Verstappen. But I just don't think Red Bull will do it because I think they're always looking for the next Max Verstappen, as you say. And I think that they put Alex Albon into the Red Bull senior team after just 12 races, which is incredible. Like, it's really, really not enough time, I don't think, in F1 to, sort of develop all the skills that you need. And while Albon did very, very well in the back end of last season, obviously had his heartbreak in Brazil, like arguably he should have got a podium, unquestionably. And then this season again in Austria, I mean, he could have won the race. But it's just that his confidence has been chipped away, and you sort of start hearing things about sort of like changes that are being made or sort of concerns that are being flagged up. And it is worrying to see sort of a similar path to maybe that we saw Gasly tread when he was there, and Daniel Kvyat as well when he was there as well. And obviously his demotion that was handled far, far worse than Gasly's was, because, I mean, Kvyat, it basically ruined his career for a little while. So I think that there is a good case, as Brandon says, for getting Albon back at AlphaTauri in some way. But I don't see them putting Gasly and Albon together. I think that Red Bull, they're looking to the future. They've got a young Japanese driver, Yuki Tsunoda, in Formula 2 at the moment. He's Honda backed. So obviously Honda very, very keen to get a Japanese driver into Formula 1. Tsunoda has been really impressive. Like I was close in F3 last year, sort of covering all the top guys there, and he was massively impressive there. In F2 this season, he's been brilliant. It's his rookie year, and he's really up there in the championship. So I think that if there is a case to get him into AlphaTauri for next season, I think that will absolutely be made. Then I think that if that means Albon goes back to AlphaTauri, then surely Gasly has to go the other way. So, I think that we've seen the benefits of what a longer period a team can do. I think with Gasly, I think he's very comfortable at Faenza. He was obviously the team that lifted it all the way through 2018 and really, I think, helped Honda's partnership with Red Bull and sort of picked up some of the pieces after how badly things went for Honda at McLaren. So I think that, I just think Gasly's so comfortable there. Like, he's so happy at Faenza. He loves being at AlphaTauri. And I think that would maybe be a big thing that he would lose were he ever to go back to Red Bull, because it is such a different environment. They might be owned by the same company. They might be an A team and a B team. But really, they're two very, very different teams in how they operate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a point just there that actually Subia brings up in their opinion. So let's take a listen to what they say, because I think, again, this is probably what a lot of people are thinking in terms of that second Red Bull seat and how successful you can be in that seat.
This year's Red Bull car is not at all a good car or a drivable car even. We know that Max has very good control over the car, but we still see him struggling to bring this car around the corners, high speed corners, low speed corners, everywhere. And I don't think Gasly would particularly enjoy driving this car. The Alpha Tauri is more stable than this Red Bull, and Albon is not doing that bad. He's just 3 tenths behind Verstappen, but the midfield is so tight this year that even the 3 tenths means some 4 or 5 places behind. So bringing Gasly there is not going to change anything. It is only going to make him suffer even more than Albon and make Red Bull look like idiots who can't even decide which driver they need. They have the data, we can just speculate on it, but I feel Gasly should not go to.
You know what? More and more now, especially after listening to what Sabia said, I do think they need somebody in that Red Bull seat that isn't trying to build their careers yet, because these young guys are all, they're only at the very, very beginnings of their careers. Albon, this is his second season in Formula One, as you pointed out, and it's potentially career destroying to see not only your confidence beaten, but to have everybody turn against you in the media or the fans because they don't believe that you're doing a good job, when actually behind the scenes it's a team error, which I think, as we've pointed out before in other shows and across maybe the other content that we put out, Red Bull this time are being very different in their approach to the seemingly underwhelming performances. And they are looking more inward at themselves and the car. And, they brought in Simon Rennie for Albon, who had more experience as a race engineer, to see if that could help. So it seems to be a bit more of a different approach from Red Bull, but the results are still the same. And I don't know how you felt about Albon's demeanor after Monza, but to me, in the TV pen post race, he looked exhausted, and two, he looked so dejected. And I don't think I've seen him look that dejected all season. And it was really how else is he meant to react? The guy that he replaced has just won his first race and he hasn't even scored a podium yet. So that must be so difficult to handle psychologically.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that is a huge psychological challenge. And I think that any driver who's within the Red Bull sort of setup, they're very aware of what they are getting themselves into, to the point that some drivers completely avoid the Red Bull Junior team because of the pressures that are involved, obviously. But no, I agree. I think Albon, he was very dejected, and I think his demeanour has been, you've just slowly sort of seen it ebb away, I think, over the season so far. And it's difficult because he's performed well at points. I mean, the Austria first race, as I said, he could have won that race and arguably should have won that race had it not been for the clash with Lewis Hamilton. So he's been up there at points, but there is always this gap to Verstappen. There's always sort of a 5/10 gap in qualifying, which is big. And I think that this season Red Bull, they're kind of not so worried about the big sort of performance gap between the two of them because there's no Ferrari putting pressure on them, and Mercedes are so far clear at the front. It's whoever's in that seat, we're going to finish second in the constructors anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But that kind of mentality, I mean, that can only go so far, and you need two drivers really that are pushing each other. And as much as Max is sort of he's sort of the main man there, the car is sort of very much pointed towards his driving style. It's very skittish, it's very hard to drive at points, but it suits Max really nicely, and that's what he wants. But for the likes of Albon, and as Gasly found last year, it is just that much more difficult. And then if you don't sort of click with the car, your performances are poor, therefore your results are poor, therefore you got people like me and people like you asking all these questions, being well, you're not performing well, what's going on? And it's just a lot of it all kind of spirals. And I think that's what happened with Gasly last year. Like, it really just got to a point where Red Bull were like, look, we can't do this anymore. It's costing us time on track. Pierre's clearly struggling. I mean, I remember talking to him at the races sort of leading up to when he left Red Bull, and he was such a different figure. Like, he's just a bit down in the dumps, really. And then at that first race back at Spa, like, he just didn't look at anybody. He just looked down at the ground, gave his answers, and just wanted to leave immediately. But then he got his spark back. Then he rebuilt things, and then obviously got that wonderful podium in Brazil, and now is a Formula One race winner. And it's like he's just shown that you can sort of really rebuild things back up. So I think it proves that just because you can't cuss it at Red Bull, that doesn't mean you're a bad driver. Like, that doesn't mean you're not cut out to be a Grand Prix winner, even, because he has proven now that you absolutely can be.
Yeah, and I think the other problem he's going to have as well is that even though he's had better results, he's now a Grand Prix winner, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into success in Red Bull. And it's just, can you imagine if he goes back and it's just 2019 all over again? It's just going to be what, it's not worth it at all. I just don't think, and I personally don't think, and I think you have touched on it as well, Luke, he's just going to have the exact same results as Albon has. I don't know. I mean, how do you rate Gasly and Albon as singular drivers? Kind of putting you on the spot here, Luke.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
like, how do you rate those two in terms of, like, because I saw a load of comments come in actually saying if you put both of them in a Red Bull, like who's going to adapt and overcome and survive basically better than the other? I don't know. I'm not sure who I'd put on top in that pairing.
I would probably favour Gasly more based on experience more than anything.
Yeah.
I think that because Red Bull really sent him around the houses through his junior career. I mean, he did Formula 3.5, GP2, and Super Formula, and they were kept giving him these sideways steps, and he really had to earn like his seat. He even did a Formula E race as well. Like, he really he had to go the long way to get to F1. And then he had a great year with Toro Rosso in his first full season in 2018. That obviously led to the Red Bull appointment. But again, Red Bull weren't prepared for that. Red Bull were expecting Ricciardo to re-sign, have him and Verstappen as the long-term future, let Gasly sort of build his experience and build in time at Toro Rosso. And then, similar to when Vettel left Red Bull at the end of 2014, they kind of went, panic, like, what are we going to do? And they had this young driver who was highly rated and doing very, very well, and they thought, okay, well, let's just get him in. They did the same thing with Kvyat. It didn't work out. Same thing with Gasly now. It's not worked out. And I think that just Pierre's now built the experience. I think he maybe sort of panicked a bit and maybe flapped a bit when he was in Red Bull the first time around. And I agree that I think going in a second time, although he sort of may be more aware of how to deal with things, I think that there would sort of maybe be a degree of caution. Whereas, I mean, Albon, like, he's just a very chilled out guy. Like, he's very, very relaxed. And I think that really helped him last year, particularly after how poorly Gasly had done. Mainly because he was just very relaxed. Like, he just sort of took everything in his stride, and he was like, yeah, it's all good. And that really, I think that maybe exaggerated perhaps how good he had actually been through the back end of last season. And I think that now we come to this year, it's kind of like a role reversal, whereas Gasly's very relaxed. I mean, we see him celebrating and reading Gazzetta dello Sport, and it's him on the front cover with his Italian GP trophy, and it's all just very positive and very cool and very chilled. And now Albon's the one facing this crisis. So I think it is really interesting. I personally think Gasly would win that if it were the two of them together at Red Bull. But I think that also leads to the question of where would Red Bull be right now without Max Verstappen? Like, if he wasn't leading that team, if he wasn't pulling the results and the race wins out of nowhere with a car that clearly isn't up to Mercedes standard and is clearly difficult to drive, where would they be? Like, would they be stuck in the midfield? Would they be with Racing Point and Ferrari and McLaren, like, scrapping over that sort of best of the rest status, or what? Because Verstappen is really carrying that team right now, and that, I think, maybe just points to how much Red Bull is centered and built around Max Verstappen at the moment.
Well, that leads us very nicely on, Luke, to Vicky's opinion on this topic. So let's have a listen to what Vicky had to say.
I think Gasly should 100% stay where he is. He has shown himself to be such an incredible talent who can achieve great things in the right environment, and he has well and truly secured himself as being the number one person in the team. Whereas with Red Bull, Max is their main man, and they have firmly put all their eggs in his basket, so I don't think it really matters whether Pierre goes or Alex stays or it's someone else entirely. They're never going to be given the same opportunities that Max is, and for that reason alone I think he should stay where he is and keep doing what he's doing.
It's Max's team, isn't it? And that's not going to change. And to be honest, you can see why Red Bull wouldn't want that to change, because he is bringing in the results. He's bringing in the race wins. You know, he's challenging. He's up there, and you know, you can't really blame them for wanting to have a number one driver. I think we've spoken about it before. It's quite a controversial topic, but that's what teams want. They want a number one that's going to be their champion, and they want a steady number two that's going to help with strategy calls during race, be close enough to maybe force an error from Mercedes or whatever, but then also bring in enough points to make sure that they secure as high up the team constructors championship as they possibly can. So yeah, it's not an easy seat to occupy. I guess it's a similar situation that Bottas has with having Lewis Hamilton as a teammate. You kind of have to just be okay with being second best.
You do, yeah. And I think that when you've got a once-in-a-generation talent like Max Verstappen alongside you as well, like you can probably deal with that. Like, as much as you sort of want to be up there and be fighting for race wins or whatever, like I think you want to feel wanted, and you want to feel like the team is really behind you as much as they are behind the other driver. And that was a factor in Daniel Ricciardo's exit from the team, that he said that he found that things were maybe going a little bit too much towards Max, and he was sort of struggling to feel like there was real parity there. So I think that is something that, yeah, if Gasly were to go back to Red Bull, he would again have to be okay with and have to deal with, and like that would just be part of it. And I think that I just think the struggle is that no matter who Red Bull put in there, I don't think they're ever quite going to be up to Max's standard, particularly so long as they keep designing the car to tailor Max, really rally the team all around Max as well. And I think they kind of want the best of both worlds, where they want someone who is willing to be second fiddle to Max, but is also quick enough that they can not lose races to other teams and things like that. So it's it's an interesting trade-off. But I think that if Gasly wants to be like a true team leader and like be a number one guy within a team, AlphaTauri is the place he is doing that and can do that for the future.
Okay, so let's step away from the Red Bull mix, and we're obviously going to talk about a few reasons why maybe that could be a possibility or isn't a possibility. But a lot of people are saying, Gasly, run as far away from Red Bull as you humanly can and go find another team that's going to nurture your talent, that's going to give you the car that you deserve, that's going to give you the investment that you deserve, and give you race wins, more race wins, and potentially championships. That's what all drivers want, right? They want that potential to be able to get up there. So realistically speaking, what are Gasly's prospects outside of Red Bull?
Interesting. So we obviously had the confirmation this morning about Sebastian Vettel joining at Racing Point to become Aston Martin for 2021 on a multi-year deal. So that's kind of the next sort of step in the driver market for next year. And I think for next season, I mean, Gasly said that, like, basically, and with all relation to like everything going on about the links to Red Bull and all of that, he said right now it's out of my hands. Like, and that is entirely true, because all of the Red Bull juniors, they're signing into Red Bull contracts, and that means that Red Bull can basically do as they please. They can put them in Red Bull, they can put them in AlphaTauri, and that is purely at the team's discretion. So I think that it comes down to drivers when they sort of find like escape routes and ways out, either by getting towards the end of their contracts. Red Bull contracts tend to be quite long, or having interest from another team. We saw that with Carlos Sainz when he joined Renault initially, and then that led to McLaren, and now has led on to Ferrari. And I think that really that is where, if Gasly wants to see his future outside of the Red Bull program, I think it's a similar kind of thing, that for next season, I think he knows that he's going to be probably at AlphaTauri again or at Red Bull. Like, it depends entirely what they want to do, but within that setup still. But then beyond that, I think that he'll be thinking, well, what is there outside of the Red Bull program? And I think that one link quite a few people have made is to Alpine, the new F1 project that will be obviously what Renault is rebranding as for next season. For next year, we know they've got Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso locked in. But when they made that announcement, Renault made clear that they wanted the French identity of that team to be a big, big thing moving forward. It's going to have the colours colours of the tricolor on the car. They really want to sort of bring like big French success back to Formula One. Now, what better driver to do that with than France's first Grand Prix winner for 24 years? Like, it would be brilliant, I think. And I know there is the beef between Gasly and Ocon that we don't really know the full reasons for, and it runs a long way back. And obviously for next season, that wouldn't be a possibility. But with Ocon out of contract at the end of 2021, with Fernando Alonso, I mean, who knows what he's going to do? Like, you know what Alonso's like. He might, after a year, go, you know what, I've had enough finishing 7th. I want to go again, or who knows. But I think that long term, I think if Alpine are that keen on making it a very French Formula One team, I think Gasly would be a really good fit for them. And I think that if you're any of the midfield teams right now, really, long term, I think Gasly's got to be someone on your radar to say, look, he's a Grand Prix winner. He's proven at AlphaTauri, like, he's in a good environment, what he can do, and just how good his results can be. Because, as you said, like, even before the race win, he'd been one of the stars of the season. Autosport Grand Prix editor Alex Kalinauckas does his post-race driver ratings. And before Monza, Gasly was 3rd average overall, I think only behind Hamilton and Verstappen. Like, that's how good he's been. I think he might be top overall now. So that really just proves just how classy he has been this season. And if you're any midfield team, I think you've got to look at Pierre and go, you know what? The kid's good. Like, he's doing brilliantly. He had that rough patch with Red Bull, but the way he's bounced back, that shows real character. And there are so many qualities that Pierre Gasly, I think, could bring to any Formula One team. So yeah, if I'm any midfield team, I'm sort of thinking long term. I think Gasly's someone you've really got to look at.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, which you're always welcome to do. But you raised Sainz as an example of somebody that has been brought in by Red Bull and then cut ties, moved on, and has now been able to kind of jump between teams. I mean, as you said, he's had 10 years at Renault, McLaren, and now he will be in Ferrari. And before that, obviously, he was at Toro Rosso. So he's done a bit of a moving around, bit of musical chairs going on. I guess, arguably, the difference was Red Bull kind of wanted to get rid of him. I mean, is that a fair statement to make, really? Like, they were kind of like, maybe not in terms of like they wanted to get rid of him, because he went to Renault on loan, right? Yeah. He was like, here's a favor, you can have one of our drivers, because one, we need a seat for him and we don't have one. We've got like drivers coming in that we want in our sister and senior teams. So here, he's a spare, but we still want like our hooks in him, because, we've invested a lot of money in him, and so we don't want to let him go altogether. But then once they were kind of settled with their setup, they were a bit more like, yeah, whatever, off you go. Like, go and do what you want to do, sign with McLaren, that's fine. So in that sense, it's maybe slightly different. Like, because I think a lot of people have used Sainz as the example to say, look, well, it worked for Sainz, whatever, off you go. And they obviously raised like Vettel and Ricciardo, but as you, I think, have pointed out before, they were at the end of contracts with Red Bull, and so they had that negotiation power. Now, Gasly isn't currently at that end point, so it would be a case of Red Bull would want to get rid. And based on the fact that he is doing so well, they're not going to want to get rid. So he's kind of in this catch-22 scenario where he's going to have to work really hard, or I'm guessing pay a lot of money to be able to release himself from the Red Bull stronghold.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to remember in all of this, and it's something that that Gasly does say, is that he owes Red Bull a lot. Like, his career has been funded by Red Bull from a very low level and has got him all the way to Formula One, and ultimately has turned him into a Grand Prix winner. And no matter what has happened with Red Bull and them jilting him from their team last season, he still owes Red Bull a huge amount. Like, they've done a lot for his career. Helmut Marko, as sort of controversial a figure as he may be in terms of handling these juniors, he has helped Gasly become a Grand Prix winner. And I think Pierre is very aware of that and very switched on to that. So I don't think he at any point would he would never sort of look to escape Red Bull and be like, I need to get out ASAP or anything like that. Like, I think it would only be if a genuinely good option elsewhere came up that he would look to do that. And I think Red Bull, right now, they're not going to be at all looking to get rid of him or let him go, because it is a case of that they want someone with his experience sort of lead the team moving forward. And I think a lot of it will just depend on who else is coming from coming from the junior ranks, and it can really help, because that a couple of years back when Gasly was waiting to get into F1, and obviously Sainz's move to Renault, that then opened up the place for Gasly at Toro Rosso. So that's how he got his Grand Prix debut. And that I think that so long as they have sort of these juniors coming through, you look at Yuki Tsunoda, Yuri Vips is also doing Formula 2 and a very good talent. I think they may sort of be thinking, well, look, how can we get these young guys into F1? Where would we sort of place our drivers and who would work where? And I think that, yeah, I just really, I hope that doesn't leave Gasly completely on the sidelines in the future in terms of that he's without a seat and is like completely stuck. Because we've seen a lot of other Red Bull juniors go that way. You think of John-Eric Verne and Sebastian Buemi and Antonio Felix Acosta and all these other drivers who they were just dropped by Red Bull completely after a poor season, and that was it. Like they were gone and lost to F1 forever, basically. Found success elsewhere, but their Grand Prix career was over. I think what Gasly has done by winning a race now and with the form he's shown this season means that even if at the end of, say, the end of next year, if he's been at AlphaTauri another year and Red Bull go, look, we're really sorry, but we've got these two young guys, we want to get in, we're putting you on the sidelines, he is going to be hot property for everyone else in the driver market now. Like he's got a race win. That's something that Sergio Perez, Romain Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg even, they do not have that. Like he's got that value above them in that way. So I think it's a sort of bright future for him. I think whatever happens, I actually think Pierre's going to be okay. I think even if he went back to Red Bull, hopefully he'll be able to learn from the lessons of what happened last time. Hopefully Red Bull will learn from the lessons of last time as well and sort of make it work a bit better. But I think that even if he's at AlphaTauri for another year, he's happy there. He loves his family there. And I think that he's in a really good spot, which is a nice sort of positive good news story for Formula One.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think we've kind of gone through most of Gasly's options. Should he, shouldn't he? I'm hearing, Luke, you're essentially saying he should just stay put, stay patient, wait maybe a little longer to see how that Red Bull shapes up and then see what the possibilities are. But we're sticking with his natural trajectory, which is to take that seat in that senior team at some point. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that's, yeah, I think that's probably my view on it. I think that he's good in AlphaTauri right now. I think if Red Bull get to a point when they need him in the future, potentially, if, I don't know, end of next year, if Max goes, you know what, I've had enough here, I'm off to Mercedes or whatever, then maybe Gasly might be a man to step up to Red Bull and lead. But I think right now, just based off how comfortable he is, I would say stick with AlphaTauri for the moment. What's your view? What do you think?
I think I'm in the camp where I want to free Gasly.
Oh.
Hashtag free Gasly.
Oh.
I just don't see anybody other than a Max Verstappen getting any kind of a look in. It's going to be a similar scenario that Bottas has with Lewis Hamilton. I think it's very suffocating on a driver's career. They're never going to get a chance to shine. Unless they throw absolutely everything at it, a la Rosberg 2016, and the timing's right, they're not going to win world championships. And sure, okay, the case that we have in Formula One right now is that there's one out-and-out team and a couple of decent teams that are probably going to steal some wins. But, these drivers are out there to get world championships. And I am an optimist in terms of the 2022 regs. I am hoping that it's going to kind of level the playing field a little bit more so that we don't have that wide gaping chasm between teams. But I don't think Gasly's success will be found at Red Bull. So yeah, I'm in the camp that I would like to see him get a chance to move to a different camp. I mean, saying that, it would also be quite interesting to see him in that Mercedes seat.
You're not the first person to say that. I've seen that floating around quite a bit, actually. People saying it could be maybe a one-day option. Maybe one day. I don't know. We've seen with Valtteri Bottas, like if you're a very good midfield driver and the driver market moves and an opportunity comes up, you can cash in and become a Grand Prix winner, and you can at least attempt to fight for world championships. Maybe one day that works for Gasly. It's all about timing. Like he's really got to just get his timing right. But the fact he's now won a Grand Prix, I think he will always now be an option. He'll always be a name in the hat, which is, I think, a really good prospect for his future, whether that's inside Red Bull or outside of it.
Gasly's stock definitely took a good old climb after Monza. But yeah, and obviously I know people are going to raise the point that Mercedes have a similar problem in that they're trying to place Russell. So, but you know, Lewis is going to move on at some point, and Bottas might not stick around forever, either his choice or not his choice. But you know, again, like you said, if not even if you're a midfield team, I think if you're a senior team, you're going to be looking at people like Pierre Gasly and the talent that he has. So I don't know. But what do you guys think at home? What should Gasly do? Should he stay at Red Bull? Well, first off, should he stay at AlphaTauri? Should he stay within the Red Bull program? Or should he look elsewhere for success in Formula One? Let us know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, leave it as a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast player, tweet either at Autosport or myself or Luke. So at Jess McF1 for myself and at Luke Smith F1 for Luke. But thanks for everybody, as always, for sending in your opinions. It was really interesting how many opinions we got this week and how many were basically saying that Gasly should stay where he is. I was totally expecting for people to be wanting Gasly back up there in his senior position. But that's why we do these shows, because we want to know what you guys think at home. But yes, look out for the next call for next week's topic, which will be coming out early next week, hopefully. And until next time, we'll see you then.